I love Invincible. Like many, I became instantly hooked after seeing Omni-Man utterly break every expectation I have for the show at the end of episode 1. This led to me watching season 1 over and over again, and even dabbling in the original source material when the show was on break. Just imagine the grin on my face in 2023 as we not only get this Adam Eve special, but get the long-awaited return of season 2, and it's only 4 episodes. Having that insatiable urge to fill the Invincible-sized hole in my heart, I turned to the internet to hang with the fandom. While expecting theory crafting from both comic and TV fans alike, I was very shocked to come across a rising narrative that was much more negative. And that is, Invincible is killing its hype. A concept that sees a vocal minority questioning the longevity of the show in a way that wasn't really done during the season 1 hype train. And even as the Invincible fanboy I am aspiring to be, I would be remiss to dismiss every concern as just being overdramatic. Most of us love to go into a series with the best in mind, especially if it's a series we love, but we would also be running off of pure ignorance if we didn't acknowledge when a project is following certain questionable trends. Now, to first understand why this project's longevity is coming into question, you gotta really understand the foundation behind the series' initial rise, because for the most part, these beloved factors have gone relatively unchanged. It's just the fact that more setbacks are coming to light for some people, so it becomes an issue of how much can the viewer take before season excitement is no more. So for being the product of an indie company, Invincible's actually had a lot going for it heading into its original release date. They had a solid 15 years under the third biggest comic book publishers with Image, garnering an immense fan base during its tenure. Then add on the name Robert Kirkman, and now you'll have way more external eyes due to the success of The Walking Dead, a TV series that he not only directly worked on, but developed the source material for. And if that wasn't enough, the series was being released on Amazon Prime, not only being directly connected to a literal corporate powerhouse, but coming off the back of season 2 of Prime's arguably biggest project to date with The Boys. A show that initially opened eyes as far as what one could expect from a superhero project and helped pave the path to where more people were willing to give a project like Invincible a chance. And if all that wasn't enough, an immeasurable amount of people were still heavily quarantining themselves, meaning a more open group of people to target out for. But all the intention in the world means absolutely nothing if the project isn't watchable, and thankfully for Invincible, it's a very watchable product. Invincible is the pinnacle of the concept that animation is not a genre, but it is a medium, contrasting the bright art style that gives off a Saturday morning cartoon feel with mature themes, extreme gore, and actual consequential effects. It is an excellent subversion of multiple superhero tropes done in a way that isn't just change for change's sake. Like Omni-Man isn't just a classic evil Superman trope, and Mark isn't just the newbie who wins every fight through pure determination alone. While the show's pacing can be viewed as quick by many, I actually like that we're seeing growth and not just a stale character that is perpetually a high schooler who is learning the same lessons over and over again. These characters go through progression physically, mentally, environmentally as they go through different stages in life. You could feel both comic and show creators alike have that immense respect towards the superhero genre while simultaneously not being afraid to not be so straightforward. We have a multitude of characters that operate in this morally ambiguous gray area, making this larger-than-life story about aliens and superpowers surprisingly more grounded than a lot of other projects. Invincible's attention just captivates those superhero fans who grew up and now have their favorite genre covering more complex and mature themes. It also doesn't hurt that the cast is really stacked with talent and have been giving performances that will be looked back on as iconic in a couple of years. Okay, so the consensus moving forward is that Invincible is a thematically heavy show with great characters and a lot of hype moments for the future, having comic book readers just salivating at the thought. So why the growing pessimism for this potentially all-time series? Well, because as crazy as it sounds, plot can really only take a project so far in a lot of people's eyes. You can have a 10 out of 10 story, but if, say, your story be taking Hunter x Hunter level breaks, then of course people are going to be pretty turned off. It took 2 years to get any content after season 1, then after finally getting the long-awaited season 2, we only get 4 episodes that ended in late November 2023, and the rest of the season's release dates are left ambiguous for sometime in 2024. Some people even tried to cope themselves into thinking that they would drop on the 4th of January, but clearly that wasn't the case. These delays have been said to stem from background issues with everything from the Big C virus, the writer's strike, and general scheduling conflicts. People have even been developing the theory that they're waiting to drop part 2 of season 2 after Prime Video implements their ad-supported tier. Keep in mind that Invincible only has 8 episode seasons that, even when taking into account their length, is still less than a lot of other animated projects that release more frequently. I mean, Prime has literally released an animated project after Invincible, and they finished season 2 before Invincible season 2 even started. And even if a project has taken the gap of Invincible, the resulting visuals will make it all make sense, which is debatable when it comes to Invincible, but I'll get into that later. The season 1 hype is strong though, as with every successful show after their first, so opening day numbers for season 2 will of course be up. And along with the fact that season 3 is set to have not nearly as long as a break as they worked on it while doing season 2, we may never have scheduling issues of this magnitude ever again. However, if they do end up having delaying issues again, which is highly likely as they are aiming for 7 to 8 seasons, it's going to be way harder to bounce back as nothing really compares to season 1 hype. But the looming issues of the show are not purely limited to external factors in the eyes of many viewers, as just about everyone can see that animation has its quirks. And Invincible's animation is hit or miss, to say the least, going from breathtaking visuals in one sequence to a PNG dragged across the screen in the next. I'm not going to compare this to certain shows out east with workers that are not given proper treatment at all, but you gotta start being honest with yourself when your big mid-season fight that is blood and internal organs falling out of bodies seems less impactful and creative at times than a Teen Titans fight from 04. I know we joke a lot about how pretty visuals allow series to get away with basic story, but wanting your show to consistently look nice isn't really a shallow point. Many can chalk up Invincible's animation as being passable, but another chunk straight up cannot enter the story because of its look. I mean, Yu Yu Hakusho is one of, if not my favorite anime of all time. I bring it up and suggest it whenever I can, but I always preface it by saying that it came out in the 90s because I know a huge subsection of people are not a fan of older animation. The point is that looks matter, and it's especially disappointing that we haven't gotten much consistency so far in season 2 after the monster of a hit Invincible was back in season 1. Now, the last point of conflict regarding the future of Invincible is weird because it hasn't necessarily shown itself in the show just yet, and that's the idea that Invincible is bound to be repetitive and boring. Alright, let me explain. With the comic run that spans over 15 years, it's just natural that you fumble at times, and for Invincible specifically, its depth becomes its downfall as many parts of the story become repetitive or rushed. Which is funny, as the story being repetitive is also a common complaint for Kirkman's other project, with The Walking Dead. Invincible's television counterpart has made a lot of changes that many would consider superior to the comic, but again, anything can happen with that 7 to 8 seasons that they're aiming for. Just as quickly a show is covered in praise can a show turn sour in the public's eyes. The Boys hasn't even dropped season 4 yet, and people have already been calling them out on their formulaic approach. There is a very real future in which Invincible gets tied solely to its gory element, when the show is absolutely so much more than that, but people just see the constant bloody battles, get tired of it like they sort of have with The Boys already, and then they just generalize the show to this one element and then go into the next popular media trend. Now, do I 100% believe that Invincible will have a major drop-off in quality that has everyone leaving the show? No, not at all. Like I said in the beginning, I am a huge fan of this universe, and I want this show to succeed, and while I may not agree with every bit of criticism, there is some truth to certain concerns. So much of the show's success hinges upon these characters and plots being new, exciting, and well executed, and I would just hate for them to go stale for 1 second, produce one bad season, and have nothing else to fall back on. It is really too early to tell how things will play out, but I am glad that I get to experience the brilliance of the little show called